And there's just all kinds of problems. We all know that you don't ever drink tap water. you know, there's all kind of course, the fluoride. We're aware of that. But we're going to go over some interesting facts that we have researched on the internet about how all of this works, how things have changed, and we're going to be doing some live art on the topic. So I will just add quickly that this is a crisis that I feel affects me personally. My uncle just passed away yesterday, and he's been struggling with all kinds of issues that I can link to the jab and other things that I think we can see it on a personal level. We can also see it as a societal problem. So I think every one of us in some way can tie diseases in our family and friends to foods and various things that we're exposed to that are infecting us and hurting us. So I'm going to read through a couple things there. I want to say a quick hello to Doodle Squatch in the chat there, and hello to everybody and anybody over in Patriotic stream that's joined us today. We'll usually have people kind of filing in throughout the show. But I'm going to go ahead and read a couple facts about this topic before I get more into my own art. And Patriarch, feel free to chime in at any time. So
Sure.
just going to read through a few facts here. So over the past 30 years, the food industry has several trends and practices that have led to less healthy food options being available. Here are 10 ways in which this has occurred. 1. Increased processed food. There has been a significant rise in the consumption of highly processed foods, which are often high in added sugars, unhealthy fats, and sodium, while lacking in essential nutrients. So, as a quick aside, how can I say, the sugars feed cancers, and this is a serious issue. Sodium, super high levels of sodium, they lead to all kinds of problems. So I think anyone who's somewhat familiar with health and how to eat well knows these things. Growth of fast food chains. The proliferation of fast food chains has led to an increase in the consumption of calorie-dense, nutrient-poor foods, contributing to the rise in obesity and related health problems. People don't maybe realize frequently how obesity leads to several other types of problems, diabetes being one of them. It's obviously a very, very major problem. I have someone in my family who's struggling intensely with diabetes, just had a very, very serious heart surgery, lost part of his leg. So, when you're looking at those, I don't know, looking at the future of American diet or diet in the Western world, that's what the future looks like. It's very ugly and very painful and very costly. So, and again, if you want to chime in at any time,
Well,
that's
I
fine.
mean, I think the food industry in general is quite bad all over Western Europe, but I think America is
Okay.
particularly bad, isn't it?
Oh God, oh hugely, and North America. I don't know how it is in say Australia, New Zealand, but severely problematic here indeed. I'll tell you, near where I live, there were three new buildings that were just put up. One was a fast food restaurant, a popular chain. The other one was a smoke shop, and next to that was a wellness clinic.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that. Now, in America, where I live, all of the smoke shops are run by Muslims. I don't know.
Right.
I feel there's definitely something going on there. Just to the plain observer, something's going on
What shops did you
there.
say?
Those smoke shops, they're basically for marijuana and the like.
Ah, I think they
Yeah,
tend to gravitate to, stuff like that, don't they? Just stuff
I
that's
don't know.
addictive. Maybe
Yeah,
is it strategic or?
so I'm not against marijuana, especially medical marijuana, but the proliferation of these smoke shops all over, I mean, they're everywhere now where I live. it really it's pushing that, like it's pushing fast food. And I think especially for younger people, there's probably, how do I say, there's probably they don't have good decision making skills.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially it's social engineering. It's turning our culture into just lazy slobs with health issues and who can't think straight. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's legal in my state, and again, I'm not against it, but like alcohol or anything else, it's something you have to kind of think about. How do you use it? But the fact that the Muslims are all running it, to me, is highly suspicious, and I would wager that it's probably against their religion to do that kind of thing. So I don't even know. But then the
Weed. Well,
wellness center.
I
Go ahead.
found growing up. To be honest, I used to smoke a fair bit of weed when I was younger.
Right.
It was a social recreational thing. We
Sure.
associated it with gaming. We used to go around and
Yeah.
just get super
Clubbing,
high with my friends.
anything.
And
Yeah.
to be honest,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
really like to go out and smoke. We it was all gaming. We used to play games and
Actually,
um,
clubbing's more harder drugs, to be honest.
yeah, I think you just feel a bit more paranoid on it if you're out and about in environments where you're not too you know
Hmm.
uh, comfortable. But yeah, what was my point? My point was that from what I noticed as well, because Muslims didn't drink, they and nothing in the
Okay.
Quran said about
Okay.
smoking.
All
That
right.
was their
Okay.
their
Okay.
sort of
Okay. I get it. I get it.
escape or
Sure. Sure. Sure.
vice
Sure.
that they
Yeah.
could
So,
legitimately do.
right. I just think the irony of those three buildings all being built at the same time, and it's like it just
Yeah,
says
yeah,
so
yeah.
much. People just have to have a sense of like meta politics. You have to take a bird's eye view to how you're being social engineered. We're
Hmm.
just like it's like we're in a petri dish. Anyway, supersizing portions. Number three, supersizing portion size at restaurants and fast food chains have increased dramatically over the past few decades, encouraging overeating, obesity, etc., contributing to weight gain. Four, aggressive marketing to children. Food companies often target children with advertisements of unhealthy foods that are high in sugar, salt, fat, influencing their food preferences and consumption habits from a young age. So it's again that whole social engineering thing. Like in a sense, we're, how do I put it? Like this approach to fun food or what have you. Like it's it's for profit, and it's
Yeah,
killing people.
yeah.
Like it's making
Well, of
people unhealthy.
course.
There's got to be all kinds of chemicals for rather the colors in there, etc.
Hmm.
If you read the packaging, you're reading all these chemicals, can't even pronounce them. And why would you be giving that to children? So,
Yeah.
but we it's just a normal part of the landscape now. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of starting off at a young age. Recently, like right now, I've changed my diet significantly. I'm down to one meal a day,
Hmm.
and
That's pretty good. That's
I
advised. A lot of research suggests that is actually the sort of the optimum kind of
mhm,
amount of food we should eat.
Let me say a quick hello to Yiz. This is one of our superstars in the white positive scene. I was just on her show last
Okay.
Monday, Discordant Dragons. She is, let me just say, not all heroes wear capes. So I want to say a quick hello to my gal, Yiz, right there. But yeah, it's this kind of stuff. It's not something we really talk about, too much in our sphere, but we should. Health issues are huge. My family is being significantly impacted by it. Like I said, my uncle just passed away yesterday. My
Yeah,
brother
sorry
just had
to
a
hear
kid.
about that. I know you said last week that he was in a bad way, but obviously you just
Mhm.
announced that he's actually passed, which is yeah, sorry to hear about that.
It's a big tragedy in my family right now, and how those things go. So it's very heavy. But all of this, it all ties together. So I think that you and I were discussing how could we take these personal life events and tie it into a theme that is more valuable and kind of broader. to our
Yeah.
scene, our movement, right?
Well, I mean, we wanted I'm not sure how clued up the audience is, but obviously you've already mentioned that you've had some um, hardships so far, with health,
Mm-hmm.
yourself, and family
Yeah,
members, and so on.
right,
Your ex-wife, sorry, you mentioned that
right.
she's suffering. Yourself, your own health is suffering. Your uncle passed away. Um,
Mm.
and it's definitely a troubling time with health issues. You struggle to be 100% to work as it is, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously even when you're trying to fight for work, you've had some knockbacks as well from
Big time, big time.
your two clients, and you have a day work where you care for people, and they're dependent on you and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and
Yeah,
two of your
right.
main clients basically died, and you say one is likely to be COVID related
Well,
or
what?
jab related.
Absolutely, it fits the perfect profile. This was about 3 weeks ago, and obviously I can't get into the personal names, details, what have you, but uh, very bizarre, sudden death, and again, if you're well read on how these things work, you know, you can bet your life savings that that's what happened. It's
Hmm.
pretty obvious to me.
It's quite a
And then
sudden thing, yeah.
yeah, so it's just I've been going through a very strange situation where like everything is just bottomed out all at the same time,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so I since it's a very tricky topic because some of it I can't talk about sort of legally because it relates to my job, and then other things are just very very personal, with the family related crisis.
Hmm.
But suffice to say, I suddenly became like completely unemployed all at the same time, and that's partly due to these deaths and such. So just the sort of emotional impact coupled with the financial devastation, I'm starting to climb out of it now. I'm training at a new job, and I'm looking to go on unemployment, which is not a thing I want to do or like to do. It's like I have to do it. That's kind of the
Yeah.
situation I'm in. I'm a single dad, mortgage, insurance, car payments. I mean, this normal life stuff,
Uh-huh.
and it's just bizarre, and it's just all hit me at the same time. I can't even. It's surreal, is all I can really say, and it's very. I mean, it's I suppose kind of like being in a car accident. You didn't plan on. It's why they call it an accident. You didn't plan on this. So, something so devastating happening, and just all these things have happened all at the same time, and I'm just kind of working my way through it.
Trying to get
I
through,
will
yeah.
say I feel like you know I don't know if this is why these tragedies happen, but my relationship with God has gotten like better than it's ever been. It's a very very
Yeah.
intense
Well,
experience.
I think
Yeah.
God definitely tries to get our attention in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
I've often thought that when we're sort of down on the ground, and
Yeah.
the only place we can look is either upwards or keep your face in the
Yeah.
mud, right? And so, as a fighter, you look up, and when you look up, you kind of see God. You see that kind of
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you see that well, you become dependent on God. You
Yeah.
recognize um, your inability to well, I won't say inability. You recognize your weakness,
Mm-hmm.
and the dependency on something outside of yourself, and I think that is
Mm-hmm.
how God corrects us and changes us and gets our attention. You know.
There's something to it. There really is. I think there's kind of a childlike way of looking at this, which is like, oh, I'm angry at you, God, because you let this happen to me or something. And I don't take that approach. I don't look at it that way. Rather, I mean, I have. I'm not going to deny. I think there's,
Yeah.
when you're in your dark night of your soul, you do ask, like, why, that these things
Uh,
happen. It's just a human experience, I suppose.
I think that's
But
natural, to be honest.
yeah, I have this policy of not begging. I feel like that is just not spiritual and not like dignified. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
I don't even think that's what God wants of us, is to beg. I don't. It's pretty just not right. So side of me is kind of thinking, what can I learn from this? How can I help my family and others around me? Because that's the thing about it, is when people are dying or have died, there's a whole sort of phase of like that you go into, you kind of click into it, where I've got to comfort these people. I've got to help them work through this thing.
Hmm.
And you bring whatever knowledge, experience you have to the table, so to speak, with it. And I think in serving others through hard times like that, there's something beautiful that comes out of it.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge focus for me. The financial stuff, I finally hit a plateau where I'm like, you know what, just I surrender. Like, I totally surrender to you, God. Like, take it all, because this is out of my hands. And just yesterday, something extraordinary happened that is, and again, I want so bad to tell you guys like what happened, but like it crosses a line of privacy that I just can't go into. But
Okay.
I'll just say that, like, when, like, how do I put this? It's a kind of situation where that it's totally impossible for a certain something to happen, and your life is almost depending on this thing happening. And so you're like, I can't fix this situation. It's untenable completely. And so I give it to God, and that's it. This is becoming the God cast now. But I'm just, and again, I feel like I'm not out to preach to anybody, change anyone's mind, or I'm not positioning myself as some kind of spiritual advisor. I'm just simply sharing my personal experiences. That's all. So take that as you will. Um, but I do feel like, maybe there should be more conversation about our experiences, or with God, our spiritual experiences. That could add a lot of dimension to our
Hmm.
community. And I think, just if people wanted to do that, I'm always game. People who follow my channel, they know I talk about that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
deeply interested in metaphysics, history, spirituality, all of these things, and I'm open to anybody too. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's it's good that you obviously have gravitated towards the more divine and your faith and things outside of yourself. Um,
yeah,
and it is so easy to kind of grow bitter about the
yeah.
situation, and obviously that's drinking another glass of poison for yourself. It's like unforgiveness.
Yes.
It's so hard to forgive, and people do you wrong, but if you know that's the whole point of forgiveness, isn't for that other person, but it's for yourself,
Mm.
really.
You see,
Because it deflects it deflects the um, affliction that they have put upon you. If you don't forgive someone, then you're embracing what they've done to you. Basically, by forgiving someone, you've annulled it. You've kind of let it go, and it has no kind of power over you. If you know what I mean. That's how it works.
this is a I'm recently discovering what a deep and metaphysical topic forgiveness is. There's this sort of like hokey, oh, just forgive them and let it go. And life isn't like that. It's not really like that. Like, it's very, very hard to let things go. And when you're injured, depending on the level of the injury, some people build their whole personality around, hating other people and revenge. And it's a really, really serious thing. It's a very, very hard thing to deal with. But the kind of the where I'm at and contemplating that is that again, just as you said, like you've unlocked it, is that it's actually about your own personal spiritual growth. um I think that there's a part of us, well, where I'm at is that I'm trying to experience my life through my higher self rather than my ego. And the
Mm-hmm.
ego, I mean, granted, I'm not n- negating or ignoring that, harm has been done and injustice has been done, and you should have righteous anger against it and you should right that wrong. So I'm not negating that. But what I am saying is that, if you live constantly in anger and pain and, holding a grudge, wanting revenge, you're continuing the cycles of suffering. You are sort of doing the devil's work, so to speak. You see what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
there's 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 something to this whole relationship whereby we become, it's like if you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back, or something like that. There's a phrase where you become, or something, it's a Nietzschean phrase where you become the monster. And I don't want that to happen. If you're living in anger so much so that you become monstrous yourself, how is that good? How is that right? And because we talk about white well-being, well, this is it right here, guys. So, like, getting into the discussion of how do we handle these extremely difficult psychological, social, emotional, spiritual issues.
Yeah, yeah. And on that note, I mean, we've me and some other guys from the arts communities over at the White Art
Hmm.
Collective, um, the Patriotic Alternative, Patriotic Arts Community.
Hmm.
Who else was there? Let me double check. Sorry, I'm not too familiar with these guys. It's the where are we? It's the it's the American Freedom Party. Yeah. So
Ah,
basically, the American Freedom Party, Patriotic Alternative, White Art Collective, and Patriotic Arts Community. We're come together, and and this is initiated by Donald's situation, because Donald's coping really well. I mean, obviously he's putting on a when he comes on stream, he's bubbly, he's chatting, he's insightful, charismatic, and
it's all in that,
no,
folks.
none of us see kind of the pains that he's going through, and I'm sure he has real hard times coping, despite how he comes across now. And so we're kind of setting up a bit of a fundraiser for him to help him out, and I'd like it to be the start of something whereby we help out, other peoples that are going through times like this as well. We did a fundraiser, well, Patriotic Arts, and Mark initiated a fundraiser for Sam. And I think
Yeah.
in terms of a coping mechanism, we should rely on our faith and
Mm.
the pursuit outside of ourselves. But we are communal people, socialist, social creatures. We're nationalists, and we help each other. And we need to practice really elevating people in our brethren in times of need. And it's opportunity. These things also present opportunities for us to exercise our kinship. They where someone lacks, we group together and fill that gap. And I'm sure there's loads of people listening right now that are going through hard times.
Oh
And
yeah.
obviously, uh, Donald's in more of a sort of a limelight position with his following and stuff, and that. But I think when Donald is lifted, we've helped to lift Donald out of this situation, collectively. I think we should keep something like this going. I mean, we set up a group called Help a Brother Out, and I'd like to see that keep going. And like I say, once Donald, you're on your
Yes.
feet and in good stead. We should
Yeah.
really band together more often, and maybe other people can come forward and explain their hardships and find ways to help them.
That is so beautiful. It is such a beautiful, beautiful thing what you're talking about. It's the actual application of the things that we are always talking about, you know. And I mean, I'll be really honest with you, and I said this to you before the show that like I'm embarrassed to be in this situation of need, and it's just kind of, you know, as a man, you don't ever want to ask for anything, and you don't ever want to look like you're down or you're in some
Yeah.
bad situation. It's not like permanent, and I am climbing out of it. But my, you know, again, people don't maybe. Well, I'm sure some people know, but being a single dad is not a it's not a carefree, cheap lifestyle. You know, I had to buy a new car because it was going to die, and you know, blah 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 blah, da da da. Life stuff. We all have life stuff. We all know how things go, and I think that there's probably very very many of us in our community that are suffering through all kinds of things, but privately, and men
Mm-hmm.
especially, men especially. Now I obviously confide in my friends, and I know I don't have to feel embarrassed or whatever to you know share the insane things that have been going on in my life. On my show, I actually deleted a whole. I you know kind of went through the whole thing recently, and then I went back and deleted it all because I just thought that it's not really, you know, it's not really what I want to do. I want to uplift people. Yeah, I've been going through a hell ride, absolute hell ride, like falling out of the shit tree and hitting every branch on the way down. But at the same time, I'm like, this is you know, I'm here to help. I'm not here to hurt, and I'm going to try to keep my problems to myself. But then, you know, you're coming forward, and all of these guys and friends in the movement and in the different groups bonding together, banding together to help me. I mean, again, it's like I don't want to get choked up or whatever, but you know, it's really 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 powerful, and I stand behind the, you know, this project. Like if we can continue this and I can pay back everybody in whatever way that I can, you know, I mean I came to a point literally where I didn't want to live anymore, like, and that's a
Really.
very gross, that's a very, like, I never thought I'd hear myself say that, you know, I never thought I'd hear myself talk like that. But I mean, if it weren't for my son, I just was ready to check out, like totally check out. I'm completely done. And it just, I mean, again, I'm not going to try to turn this stream into the big woe is me stream or whatever, but it was that bad. You know, it was that bad for a while. And part of it, I would say, like, I got sick for a while. And I think when you're sick, you do, that's when you're down, and you know, things get even harder and more skewed and shit and whatever, this and
Mm-hmm.
that. But um you know, it's just, I again, I'm embarrassed to be that guy, to have to be that guy that needed help, that needed being picked up out of the mud or whatever. But now I feel like it transforms you. You go through changes, and I think only hard, you know, it's like only, what do they say, like only iron can sharpen iron. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to go through, you got to go through very heavy, I mean, I I'm like, God, what are you preparing me for? You know, like, what the fuck? You know? What the
Yeah.
hell is this? I mean, everybody's getting sick and dying, and then this, it really was the financial collapse that all bottomed out suddenly at the same time that threw me off the edge. That literally threw me into the abyss. And I'm like, I can't take it anymore. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And that's when you guys all kind of came in, and like you specifically, you know, Paul, pulling this together, and then, you know, a bunch of other of our friends jumped in. And so, but yeah, like you're saying, for this to become a regular ongoing thing,
Yeah.
I'm 100%, 1,000% for that. I think that's a marvelous, marvelous endeavor.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you should never. I mean, I know obviously as men and um you know, a man that's obviously always been quite independent as well. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you've feeling a lack of, or going from feeling independent to almost being sort of dependent on
Yeah,
people helping you out. It's we
right.
can relate to that being a you know, a blast to the ego and so on. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, like I say, um, it's not really a fault, is it? It's not like you went and gambled on, you know, like you know, your rent on all on black, something like
Yeah.
that. It's
You know, my
it's a series
the
of
the gamble is being in this movement. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we put
yeah,
ourselves
yeah.
out there. There's a friend of mine, John Delarose, in the comic skate scene. He's very outspoken. He's got a new political show on YouTube. I illustrated his Dynamite Thor Kickstarter. He's now getting like multiple death threats
Wow.
from people that there's a I not to change the topic too much, but like, this isn't a joke what we do out here. This isn't a joke. And there's some really crazy, screwed up people. And of course, there's the whole social engineering media and education, the communist education, the Marxist education that these people get to become the monsters that they are, the minions that they are, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's the gamble. But I'm sorry, I just kind of interrupted you a little bit there.
No worries. Just a quick shout out to the Great White Ape. Thanks for tuning in. Stephen West, hello. Mayfair Carpenter. Yes, sent from Mark Collett, who's always a great support for us guys.
Hey, Mark.
Repair
God
Shop,
bless you, Mark.
howdy. Jimmy Handyman, 7th Brigade, thank you very much for tuning in. Max and St. Thomas Aquinas, thank you very much for tuning in. Your support is
Wow.
very much appreciated. And
Awesome. Awesome. Great,
yeah,
great to
so
have so many people here.
if you guys have got any experience firsthand of people that have suffered as a result of you know, poor health from sort of lack of, or poor foods and not being able to eat healthily, or even
Mhm.
jab related, you know, sudden deaths or
Mhm.
inflictions, then yeah, just drop some comments and we'll discuss them.
Mhm. Awesome. Why don't I go back to reading the
Yeah, go
the
for it.
factoids on this topic here? Give me a second. Okay, hang tight. Okay. Let's see. Expansion of sugary beverages. There has been a surge in the availability of and consumption of sugary beverages like sodas, energy drinks, sweetened juices, and they're all linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other health issues. Decreased nutritional, it's funny, it reminds me of seeing people with like monster drink tattoos. And I'm like, that's insane to me. That's like, I mean, that is the perfect goyim right there, like a good goyim. Tattoo your body with an advertisement for some sugary shit. I mean, that's just horrible. Anyway, decreased nutritional quality of school meals. Many schools' cafeterias have relied heavily on processed, prepackaged foods that are high in unhealthy ingredients and probably preservatives, and low in essential nutrients, contributing to children's childhood obesity and poor dietary habits. As a former teacher, I'm telling you, the slop that they feed kids in American schools, hideous, like shameful. It's horrendous, but it's free. Oh yay, free food! You get what you pay
Really?
for. It's worse. It's worse than that in the sense that, like, you're slowly poisoning these children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I've seen images of like school lunch in France and like how it's actually organic food. Like potatoes and meat and stuff that's just not gross. So I don't know how it is in Europe, but how
Um,
would you say in the UK? What's it like in the UK?
I heard at one point that they're starting to introduce the bugs.
Oh
But
God. Oh
it's,
God.
I mean, it's not terrible, but I mean, I haven't
Mm.
been in school in a long time, so I can't really compare, and I've not looked
Right.
into
Okay.
it. But
You mean you didn't just graduate school?
I'm not like one of these kids that got kept back like a few years.
Right. Right.
Like
I'm
I'm full on past puberty, 10 years past it, and I'm
yes.
still
I'm
waiting to
really hoping
graduate.
I'm really working hard on passing 11th grade this year.
Yeah.
I actually had students like that were black kids that were like 19 years old and still in high school and stuff, and just very creepy. You gotta let them go.
Hmm.
And anyway, so moving on, industrial farming practices. Intensive farming methods often prioritize quantity over quality, leading. Sorry, I lost my place. Leading to the production of foods that may be lower in essential nutrients and higher in harmful substances like pesticides and antibiotics. Limited access to healthy foods. Many communities, especially in urban areas, lack access to affordable fresh fruits. It's about decisions, guys. It's about choices. Um, anyway, fresh fruits, vegetables, and other nutritious foods, making it difficult for residents to maintain a healthy diet. Let me jump in here. So I mean, I think we've all grown up with just junk food. It's just a part of,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
everywhere, and it's fun food, it's quick food, it's cheap food. It's just, again, it's social engineering. And as you get older and you're seeing people dying or getting sick from these things, you start to connect the dots, and you start to realize that, of course, the money they're making from it, but how, like, the medical industry, at least in America, is booming. It's booming, and the cancer industry is booming, and everybody is
yeah.
sick, and on and
Well,
on
it
and
is an
on.
industry, isn't it? It's like,
It truly is. It truly is. So, connect the dots. In the end, it boils down to changing who you are, meaning I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not going to eat, this kind of garbage food, because I don't, it's not like, oh, I just want to do what's fun and I can't control my impulses. It's time to grow up. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
yeah.
and
Well,
that's it. So,
I mean, my experience with that is when I was a kid, I uh, I used to my grandma used to give me a lot of chocolate, and I used to love
mhm.
chocolate.
dark
And
dark chocolate's
it was
extremely healthy for you, by the way. Dark chocolate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard
Yeah.
that, and I try and make that my kind of exception at times. But to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
if there's one vice that I have, it's sort of sweet chocolates and stuff, and I always struggle with it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like really obese, but I've always been athletic growing up. But I'm 40 now, and I'm not as
Mm-hmm.
nowhere near as active as I was. And
Mm-hmm.
it's I do find it a
Yeah.
struggle. It's one of the vices that I struggle with the most. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
I know I need to get it under control, but
Yeah.
it's even with the wife. Sometimes when
Mm-hmm.
your life becomes hectic, it just becomes easier
Yeah.
to to just make something which isn't as healthy. And
Sure.
I guess that's part of the struggle, isn't it? It's being
See,
committed
yeah,
to health.
you're right. You're
And
you're breaking into the actual core of it. Is that with this whole, like, work your life away, and we're living on a tax plantation. When you're just living like that, and you're not actually living life where you have time to slow down and look at what you're eating and how you're living, and living life more, like, naturally, that's when we're like, oh shit, I'm just gonna do a drive through and grab a quick to go something, this and that and the other thing.
yeah,
So yeah, it's all part of it. This kind of modern world that we're living in. It's quite unhealthy. But let's maybe I'm gonna check at the chat. I want to say hi to everybody here. We got Splattercat here, Hollandiers here, of course, the famous Yiz. Great, he is the unifier. The great white ape is here. We've got a lot of fun people here. So I appreciate your spending some time with us today. Um, it's really wild how healthy people are glugging down sugar drinks marketed for fitness and da, da,
I
da.
know.
Yeah,
That's one of Mark's vices as well. He loves his Red Bull. I mean, he works hard.
yeah.
I know that much. He's full
He,
on intense
he's
and
quite fit. Yeah, he's quite fit.
yeah, he loves his Red Bulls. Mark does.
Mm-mm. Well, what's the message or the point of it here really is that the the kind of cancer industry, if you will, because the Food and Drug Administration is supposed to oversee all this, right?
Okay.
Um, they okay, so just for example, I've been buying foods that I thought were healthy for a long time, and then someone pointed out to me, oh, that's just got a lot of crap in it. Look at the contents, and I'm
Mhm.
reading it. I'm like, the packaging is like, oh, it's all natural, baby. Yeah, man. Like it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hippie food. Yeah, wow, it's all so natural, la la la. And then you actually read it, and you were duped by the packaging.
Yeah.
You were duped, and so like it's you don't be deceived. I mean, marketing is really just lies. You know what I'm saying? It's just all a bunch of lies.
Mhm.
Hollandier says a child grows into the adolescent, one who enjoys the boons of adulthood and childhood. Many people never leave that state and become adults, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing is really genuinely as adults we have to act like adults, and our choices of how we eat, etc., is a pretty big part of it.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that we don't think about too much. Again, it all ties into these terrible issues that kind of tragedies that my family's going through right now. But let me read some more. The next section is a little bit more about the corporate side of things. So information here. The issue of large corporations gaining a monopoly over food production is seen not only as a matter of public health and economy, but also as a concern for national sovereignty, local culture, and self-sufficiency. That's profound. Think about what that says here. It's an issue of national sovereignty, local culture, and self-sufficiency.
Mhm.
So here are 5 ways through which big corporations have been perceived to gain such control. Number one, regulatory capture and lobbying. Large corporations often have financial resources to influence political decisions and regulatory frameworks to their advantage. I think we generally know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through lobbying efforts, these corporations can shape legislation and policies that favor large-scale industrial operations over small local farmers and producers. This creates a regulatory environment where the rules are skewed in favor of big players, making it harder for smaller entities to compete. From a conservative nationalist viewpoint, this undermines national sovereignty by allowing multinational corporations to dictate the terms of a nation's food production and availability. So in America, one of the biggest problems, I don't really know how to call this exactly, but there's an enormous amount of farmland owned by China. There's an enormous amount of farmland just bought up by Bill Gates.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Put
heard that one.
put put one and one together. Okay,
Yeah.
put
He's
it
a
together. Like,
philanthropist.
yeah, the guy that is he's figuring out ways to transfer the vaccine through mosquito bites. I mean, like, what? I mean, this is the kind of crap you'd see in like a B horror movie. It's demented, but this is real. So number two, consolidation, and I'm sure everyone in the audience could probably have something to say here. Let me check out Splattercat. The FDA is by far the worst. They allow these foods and drug companies to do their own internal research and investigations. They then can rubber stamp the products as generally regarded as safe. I love that. Generally, right? You know, the faith we have in science and doctors, scientists and doctors, is as much faith as we have in politicians now. Let's just face it; they just get
Yeah,
paid off.
yeah,
They get
exactly.
paid to do. Here, give me these results. I want, do some research and publish a study that allows me to go ahead with, like, poisoning a country or something, making money off it.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Well, it is an industry. I remember there's a funny comedy sketch called League of Gentlemen, and there's a sketch where there's this woman called Pauline and with her pens, and she's in the Dole office, and she's got all these guys waiting for a job in the class, and they're going through the job options and stuff, and she's teaching them, and she's there to basically help them prepare to get a job. And anyway, there's all this thing goes off in the class, and she's teaching them about how to get a job, the basics, fundamentals. And there's this guy called Mickey. He's really stupid, and he's like,
what show is this? What's the name of it?
It's called League of Gentlemen. It's quite like a blue dark humor type thing. It's really funny. Anyways, it's called Mickey, and then he puts his hand up at the end of the class, and he's like, "Yes, Mickey," and he goes, "What do you want?" He goes, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "Job interview." And he goes, "No, you're not. Sit down." Then she goes, "Where would I be if you lot got jobs?" It's like, and that's the whole point. The parallel I'm drawing is, where would these industries be if everyone was healed, if everyone was healthy?
Exactly.
So
crazy. It's like the smoking industry. Or the
they keep us. It's like there's a fine balance. The only thing that they need to worry about is the balance of kind of making us feel that we're kind of somewhat improved, but only for an interim period until we get ill from something else,
And maybe glamorizing it. I mean, like, I think some candy on a holiday or something is fine or whatever. I'm not trying to come across like some huge Scrooge or some health food nut or something, but like, I don't know. I mean, you got to wonder, like, what did my grandparents have on Halloween? Like, what kind of food did my dad have on you know what I'm saying? Like, and how all of that is changed so much. And then, of course, we have, like, in America, we have these, what we call, like, a Dollar Tree or a Dollar General, and like everything $1. It's not really, but everything is insanely cheap. And it's not really just for poor people. It's just people that are like, well, shit, I want to save some money, I'm going to go here. But if you look at the type of food that they have, it's almost all garbage. It's all like processed food, and it's just pretty gross stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, there's this whole economic side of it where, like, people are compelled to buy food that's unhealthy for them because they can't afford healthy food. And then you go to, like, the fancy health food stores, like, $17 for coffee, or $20 for lettuce, or whatever it is. I think most people know, like, how it works. And it's like, that's upside down, like that. I don't know.
It
you
is.
Get the general idea. Yeah.
I mean, I'm currently out here in Romania, and I mean, to be honest, we've got the good opportunity to eat healthily. Like, we've got sort of chickens here, and we're raising some ducks at the minute. It'll be cut in a few months, so and they're fed on corn and things, and so they're we have really got, and to be honest, with last year, towards the end of last year, we focused and really ate healthily for about 2-3 months, and we felt great. We lost a load of weight.
Nice.
And,
very nice.
But her mom goes out to work in Austria, and she comes back, and she's just packed to the full bags full of, like, all these nicest chocolates. And I'm like, and there's this bag just in the corner of the room there, and I'm like looking over across to it, and I break the seal, and it's too late. It's and it's a slippery slope,
Oh, yeah.
But it's that temptation that's always there, and it creeps in. It is.
Hmm. Hmm. So I've been wanting. Splatter Cat made a quick note here. Grow your own food. Self-sufficiency is key. Is coming back in style. So that's not as easy as it sounds. I just tossing that out there. Like, I mean, I've had gardens on and off over the years and this and that. Um, I
Yeah,
It's just it takes time. There's a lot of time investment in it. I'm not discouraging anyone. I want to do that. I want to have chickens. I want to do all that stuff. But then, like, well, what if you have to live in an apartment? Where are you going to keep your chickens? Oh, well, you got to own property. Oh, well, that's not cheap. Da 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 da. Da. So, like, it's just a nonstop thing where, like, society is just this big tax plantation, really. And
yeah,
not everybody can do these things. Not everyone can do these things. So
it is. It
I don't
is
know.
a lot of effort to feed them, to even clean them, um,
Mm-hmm.
even to
Yeah,
clean
yeah,
after the chickens or the
yeah,
poop,
yeah.
and the amount
Sure,
of
yeah, sure.
to feed the chickens. You've got to have bags and bags full of corn or grass and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever they eat. So yeah, it's not easy, and I think the things like the Woodland Initiative, who's I think currently in the process of raising big funds to, and they're gonna try and get some land and band together, and
Okay,
really I think that
right.
is the direction moving forwards, because one thing you learn is if you want to eat healthily, you have to rely on community to help each other out. Because the
There it
amount of
is.
times being here in Romania that
Yeah.
we've had to get someone up the road who's got a certain tool to do a certain job, will come
Yeah.
over, and it's that communal effort to get by. You can't
Mm-hmm.
just do it on your own, or you'll have to have a big family or something. But
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
there's 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 a you just have to rely on other
Sure.
people. um
That's help.
so
Yeah.
this is it's basically self-governance. Obviously,
Mm.
you know it's, you always have to be reliant on other people to a certain extent, but that
Yeah.
is that is part of community. um but
Mm-hmm.
I think the government have far too much control at the minute. They don't serve the people, do they? And it's basically the point I'm trying to make is that we should really be trying to back initiatives and making our own initiatives like the Woodlander initiative, something like that. I mean, imagine when it gets to a point where they've funded, let's say, the full million, they've got the land, and then they all kind of take upon themselves to band together, build what they need to build, live together. That's where nationalism needs to be headed, kind of away from the cities into the urban area, the rural areas. Focus
Mm.
on uh, breeding within ourselves, building strong communities that way, because the
Mm.
cities are just going to become like concrete prisons.
Oh God.
The streets are going to be full of um,
Yeah. Big time.
lawlessness from all the
Big time.
different
And they already
conflicted
are.
groups. Yeah,
That
yeah, they are,
and yeah, and whites are the target, obviously, for that. That's no
yeah,
doubt about that.
whites will be the target, but I think they'll be targets of
Yeah.
each
Big
other. I
time.
mean, certain
Yeah.
groups tend to have tendencies that
Yeah. The
they will
gangs and
just
all
try and
that and
dominate
all
each
that.
other
Yeah.
for whatever
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
And if
Sure.
you need
Sure.
to
Sure.
feed yourself or feed your kids, groups will do what they need to do that. And I think one of the
Yeah.
reasons why they're bringing it in is to bring control measures out of the chaos. Um,
Mm. Mm.
and yeah, I think the only way forwards really is these initiatives to be
Communities.
community
Okay.
driven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't disagree with you. I think what you're saying is pretty powerful. You know, um, let me read some more of these points here. Okay, a second. Okay, let's see. Consolidation and vertical integration. Big corporations often engage in practices such as merging with or acquiring competitors and integrating various stages of production and distribution under their control. This vertical integration allows them to control every step of the food supply chain, from production to retail, leading to monopolistic control over the market. Such consolidation is seen as detrimental to the local economy and small businesses, reducing diversity in the marketplace and limiting consumer choices to products that prioritize corporate profit over community values and health. This is why I love farmers markets and things of this nature.
Hmm.
Like I know a local dude who has his own bee farm, where he makes honey, and then there's just various people I know here and there. This one, sells eggs from their chickens, and
Hmm.
this one has something else over there, and this lady makes pies. And I think what we need to do is create like kind of like lists, some sort of a list of like, for these items, go to these places locally. You know what I mean? Just to kind of put, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's kind of like
yeah.
not classified, but like, yeah, I think you know what I'm trying to say, like consolidate it all in one place, so you know how to help your local people.
I mean, it's one of those things as well because people are struggling financially. It's like everyone's trying to keep the neck above the water,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and being healthy is one thing, but
sure, sure.
having the money to maybe order these things or pay for these things, it's almost like it's easier to just be unhealthy in some ways. I mean, is that a myth? I don't. Uh, it
That's it.
seems like it's harder to eat healthy.
Well, I think there's two things that make it really hard. One is cost.
Yeah.
Maybe availability, it plays into it too, because like these Dollar Trees are everywhere, or like McDonald's is everywhere, or this and that. But then it's I don't want to call it education, but I feel like it's just sort of normal, like people just don't seem to know much about, like, if I make these choices consistently over time, it's gonna kill me. It's a,
Mhm.
not only is it just gonna kill me, I'm gonna die painfully. Like, had I known, I don't know, years ago, whatever, about this or that, and then even maybe you do know, like, if I drink too much or smoke too much or something, there's going to be consequences. But I can do it this time, because I don't do it that much.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
over time, that adds up, and it adds up, and you create habits. And I think you guys generally know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I mean 2 points there. One thing I've noticed is people with vices um
Mm,
sometimes they just accept their fate and they'd
mm,
and they stay content to just have their little
mm,
guilty pleasure and they'll accept their
mm,
fate at the end of it. I've seen it growing up with a lot of surrounded by a lot of
mm,
elderly people that smoked and got to a
mm.
point where it's like if you don't quit you're gonna die.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was just to the end. I've seen it a number of times. People are just like, yeah, whatever.
Well,
I'm
stuff like
ready to
that too.
die. Let it
Okay,
be. I
that
want to enjoy the rest of my life enjoying what I
exactly.
enjoy, and it's like
Totally,
despite it
totally. Yeah.
knowing that it's killing them.
Right, right. Well, see, that what you're talking about plugs directly into that whole living on a tax plantation lifestyle. Is that, I work my ass off. I deserve to party on the weekends, or, oh, I got to catch a cigarette on break, or this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
we treat these things like rewards for working.
True. Yeah, yeah,
And like, this is why we work too much. I mean, if we can send fucking billions of dollars to other countries, then we as people in my country shouldn't have to work that hard. You seeing what I'm saying? Like, where's
yeah,
all this money
yeah.
coming from? Now, granted, they can just print the damn shit. Like it's a joke. It's really just a big joke. It's slavery, guy. I mean, there's no ball and chain, but it is slavery.
Yeah, yeah.
What do they say? Like the medieval peasant had more time, free time, than the modern man. You know,
True.
they just did what they had to do to survive. They got their farming stuff done, this and that, and then afterwards they were writing songs and making babies and dancing around the fire and this and that.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, they worked hard for it, but they were free. I
yeah,
mean, even
yeah,
like
yeah,
here, they do.
right,
It is a hard life.
right, of course.
Maintaining and feeding yourselves, but there's
Mm.
a spiritual
I would-
gratification from that hard work, I think.
See, the other thing, but imagine there's whole communities working together, though. So maybe it wasn't quite as hard, as
Yeah,
like doing
yeah,
it on
yeah,
your
for
own.
sure.
You
Yeah, well,
yeah,
that's it. And I think, to be honest, that's where we thrived as a people, because that's one
yeah,
of our great strengths is to be communal, to look out for your
mm-hmm.
brother and to help
Yeah,
each other. It's one of our greatest assets. And in this modern world, the past 100 years,
mm-hmm.
we've moved towards this sort of eating out of the hand of the big corpse, and it's like, well, you've got all this other free time now to do all these other things, to spend all this money
Right,
on this and that and things that you
right,
don't
right, right,
need,
right.
and hyper commercialism, and so I think we've been removed from our spiritual strength,
Yeah.
of community spirit, and you know
Mm-hmm.
I think when we return to that, we'll be a force again.
I agree. I agree. There's so much that needs to happen. Like we have to re-engineer ourselves socially, in our society itself, and make it in our own image, as it were.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's I guess it can happen over time. There should it's that's a huge discussion in itself. Let me finish up the talking points here as well. So, da, da, da. Control over seeds and genetically modified organisms, GMOs. Some large corporations have patented genetically modified seeds, gaining control over a significant portion of the seed market. This not only forces farmers into dependency on these corporations, for seeds, but also threatens biodiversity and the traditional farming practices that are part of a nation's heritage. Conservative nationalists often view the control as a direct threat to national food sovereignty and an erosion of traditional values and practices that have sustained communities for generations. Number 4, exploitation of global trade agreements. Big corporations frequently leverage global trade agreements to enter new markets and dominate local food economies, often at the expense of local producers and traditional agricultural practices. While global trade can be beneficial, the way these corporations exploit these agreements often leads to the marginalization of local economies and a dependence on imported foods, which is seen as a threat to national self-sufficiency and security.
Hmm.
Number 5, undermining local agriculture through pricing. Large corporations, due to their size and efficiency, can often afford to price their products lower than those produced by local farmers and small scale producers. This undermines local agriculture by making it difficult for small farmers to compete with the low prices of their products. I want to comment on this a bit. So, in my local supermarket, a
Yeah.
lot of it's just your good old family time supermarket. I noticed there's a new product on the shelf, and it is a new company that makes a competitive product in all the areas of the supermarket. If it's spices or coffees or cereals or anything, they have their own brand. And
Okay.
I can see it in my mind, but the name is slipping my mind right now. Well, I looked into this particular company, and it's a kosher company.
Okay.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah.
And it
Another
seriously,
coincidence.
yeah, it seriously undercuts the pricing of the normal brands that people are used to. And so it infuriates me to think like, oh, they're you know using our money to support, you know you
Well,
fill in the blanks. Everybody in
yeah,
this
yeah,
channel
yeah.
knows what
I
I'm
mean,
talking
it
about. So
is
we're
sick, isn't it? I mean, when you recognize that what our governments are doing with our money, it's
yeah,
like it's sick. It really is sick. I mean,
Yeah,
they're using our money to poison us, to
yeah,
replace us, to kill
yep,
us. Um,
yeah.
and it's like,
That's the whole point.
I mean, you couldn't make it up really. You couldn't think of a more
Hmm.
sick, psychotic,
Sinister. Yeah, it's
sinister
totally
character
sinister.
for a
Yeah,
film,
yeah.
and play it out. And it's like, wow, that is truly evil. It is,
It is.
it is truly
Absolutely.
evil.
Yeah. So, this, this is what I'm saying, people. Like, look at, there's an app, Kosher Certified. I would recommend it. I actually met the guy who runs Kosher Certified. And what it does is it tells you what foods are kosher and halal so that you don't buy them, and it's, of course, he got a lot of shit for making
Yeah, I
that
bet.
app, and but it's still, at the same time, that's something we should all be very, very conscious of and be careful that we're not I mean, it's enough that our taxes are being used against us, but well, let's find even more ways to pay for our own destruction, essentially.
Yeah,
um
pretty much.
it's pretty
So,
harsh,
shall
so
we spend a
yeah,
few moments talking about our artworks? We both seem to see. It
let's do
looks like
that.
we've
Yeah.
both got a kind of a
Hmm.
solid foundation now.
Sure. Why don't you start?
Okay, so um, I I did a composite of a lot of different AI images based on sort of people and bad foods. Let me think what the things were. It was things like evil food controlling companies with people obese, things like that, and in streets, local streets. So I guess it's It's like a visual representation of us as people, just lapping up what they um, feed into us. And I've tried to get in some elements of the sort of vaccine and as a kind of an antidote, which is also poisoning us, things like that. So it's like got this combination of drugs, this relationship between drugs and poor foods and things that which poison us. At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
they give us the drugs which are supposed to heal us and improve
Mm-hmm.
us,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just this cycle of death and poison, really,
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
we're you know either paying out for and bolstering the big corpse,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's it. Really, it's just
Let me tell you, even the medicines make you sick. So, like,
mm,
I was talking to an elderly woman recently who, her doctor convinced her she has to go on this certain blood thinner, and then she got sick from it, and she said, "I'm going to go off it." And he says, "Oh no, you can't do that. You could die."
oh
Well, how about
wow,
you? How about, why didn't you tell me that before you put it on me, and what, or put made me go on it? And why would you suggest that I would go on that to begin with? You
yeah,
see, like, that, this doctor's a scumbag. He's a fucking
yeah,
scumbag.
that's pretty bad.
You know, I mean, how would you like someone to do that to your mother? How would you feel? You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So I don't. I'm. We're gonna need a lot of rope. That's all I gotta say. But
It definitely needs to be a
this
day
needs
of
to be some.
reckoning.
Yeah, and well, I know the big guy above will handle a lot of that, but I'd like to handle a little of it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
So
So
talk
my
about your
artwork
piece.
here. Yeah, let me move on here. So I have a scene of a man who is in a hospital bed. He's got he's being fed, and he's all tubed up, etc. This is the kind of image that's been happening a lot in my personal life. I've been seeing this a lot in my personal life, and I'm kind of recreating it here. You've got the mother leaning over him, holding him, and a daughter and son, you know, watching their father die.
Hmm.
Um, and then this kind of graphic where I have all these dollar signs going up towards a triangle with the eye inside it, and inside the eye, what's that star called?
Star of Remphan
The star of
or
Remphan.
Moloch.
Look that up.
Yeah.
Look that up. The star of Remphan, and
I
what
tell you, it's
what
definitely
group?
not a Star of David because
Hmm.
there's no reference to Star of David in the Bible whatsoever.
whatsoever. Yeah, which
whatsoever.
is
Not
fascinating.
one reference to it
Yeah,
whatsoever. The only reference to any form of
right.
star, a symbol, is
Yeah,
the Star of
yeah.
Moloch, Star of Remphan.
Okay, so the star of,
And
I mean, I think
it's
of
an
Moloch.
ancient Babylonian
Mhm.
Canaanite symbol.
Yeah. So the idea of sacrificing, killing people for a demonic god, a demiurge, maybe, is it goes from Babylonian times to today. And this is a thing that I feel like our people need to have a much, much, much broader view of where we are and how this history has shaped our destiny and how we have to understand it and escape it. So here, this is just a new form. Instead of throwing babies into a furnace,
Hmm.
you're selling people poisonous food and poisonous medicine, and then it's just and it's for profit. And like they have like these dollar signs feeding into this. So, and of course some skulls in the background. So it's a very dark, sinister design. But I mean, I'm trying to make a. I really don't. I have to. There, for me in my art, there's like a fine line between how do I say, sort of like imaginative, surreal art and infographics. And I want it to not be so much infographics, but more, you know, conceptual art, if you will.
Hmm.
So I feel on this side it leans a little more towards infographic, but
I like it.
it's
It's a
still
strong composition. You always do some nice compositions, and yeah, really good. I took the lazy approach today. I just wanted to do a photo bash and get something out. So yeah,
cool.
but
Well,
yeah, interesting take. I like it, and obviously it's a very personal piece to you as well. It's a representation of kind of what you're
right.
going through lately with and
Hmm.
lots of health problems and
Hmm.
people close to you. And you say your uncle. Was you close to your uncle, by the way? I
Right.
was.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation because when my mother passed, I was blamed for her passing because
Oh.
I'm anti-vax, and everyone thought that I convinced her not to get vaccinated. I educated her. She was a nurse for 60 years and had medical knowledge and made an adult decision not to get vaccinated. So this was one of the people in the family that stopped talking to me because of that. And I
Okay.
don't, I forgive him. I let it go.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
and
yeah.
I, I don't. I mean, he has children, and my cousins, of course, that are suffering because of this, and so I'm not, holding those grudges. Again, we talked about forgiveness earlier.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that has a piece in this story as well. But anyway, yeah, God rest his soul. Um, so maybe you want, maybe we'll sort of wrap it up here. We're sort of almost on the 2.5 hours
Yeah,
here.
I think so.
If you want to,
So yeah, I just want to make a specific point. Um, Obviously, this today's show was focused around health, and uh, you know, sort of the being the product of unfortunate circumstances. One of them being health, obviously, is a really important thing because obviously, what Donald's situation is directly affected by things like this with the health industries, the pharmaceutical industries, and people
mm,
close to him dying. And obviously, Donald himself is going through his own health issues, and he's trying to fix that now. And yeah, I mean, we wanted to also bring attention to his other circumstances, which are lack of funding. His lots of jobs fell through. His The people he cared for have passed away, so he's taken a massive hit financially. And if you were here for the beginning of the show, we were speaking about helping, basically helping, being charitable, building communities to be charitable to each other, to help each other through situations like this. And so we was wanting this show to be a prelude for Donald, I mean, Donald wasn't aware of all of us guys banding together to try and help him in this way. So, you know, he would never try and initiate something like that himself. But it's a community effort from us guys, some of his close friends, and from the White Art Collective, and other groups. Patriotic
Mhm.
Alternative are getting involved, and there's the American Freedom Party Patriotic Arts community. So we're banding together, and look out this week for a an official post and a page where we're going to be releasing and it's not just a standard charity based giving. It's going to be a fun, effectively a collective art commission whereby we all chip in. Can be a small donation, but you put in an idea, and Donald and me will go through some of the ones which we think are the best, and we'll do them, and we'll create them, and all the proceeds will go to Donald and help support him through his hard time. And it's like a collective commission. So we'll probably choose three winners, and then Donald will do maybe one or two. I'll do one or two, um, and we'll send them out. And yeah, it's both something fun. It's like a competition, but it's also a means to to help a brother out, and hopefully this can be
Mhm.
the beginning of a really kind of strong nationalist communal based charity to help others out like this in the future who are suffering.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm really impressed by the idea. The concept of it is so cool, and to be able to actually do art and give back to people that are contributing to this is great. You know, I feel really happy that I can use some skills of mine, etc. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful to everybody involved in that. I'm kind of embarrassed to have to take any kind of help, and so whatever, if it's my pride or I don't know what, but I just want to make it very clear that I love everyone, and thank you for caring and just being friends. That's really all that matters to me right now. So God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining us for the show. Please share and subscribe and comment and help push the algorithm and all that good stuff. So we want to wish you guys the very best. Take good care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of your families and your children and all that good stuff. So we'll see you next week, and pay attention to Patriot Art's page, his social media, for an announcement. I believe Friday. Is that correct?
I think we'll aim for Friday to launch it Friday, and
Okay.
it's gonna be across the board, kind of
Wonderful.
promotion, and a lot of us are gonna get involved. Yeah, so it'll be fun. It'll be fun, and
Okay.
everyone can benefit really. So yeah, thanks again, guys, for tuning in. God bless
All
you,
right.
and
God
we'll see
bless.
you.